Everything in the room has its place. The ladle on a wooden peg, bowls on a shelf against the wall, candles in a triangular pile beside the bowls, fresh produce in a woven basket on the floor, and a covered cage beside it containing something that rustles and squeaks. She wears leather bands wound tightly around her upper arms and just below her knees, and a hide around her waist. Her skin is so dark it glows a rich purple blue, and her cheekbones catch the light like ripe plums. Strings of colorful beads encircle her long, lean neck from just below her jaw down to her clavicle, and out as far as her shoulders, hanging in concentric loops that bounce against her back and breasts. I sit up and cough some acrid fluid from my lungs. "I think you were right. Half the bog is in there," I say. "I'm always right," she says with a manic grin. "You see, I've been here a long time. Long time I've lived in this bog. I know many things, met many people, saved a few too." I decide to ask the obvious. "You didn't by any chance meet a guy named Jonah, did you?" "Oh yes, I remember that one," she says, taking down the ladle and stirring the pot. "So, what was he like?" I found him wandering the bog like he was in a big hurry to drown. It was a dangerous place even in those days. I told him to be careful, but did he listen to me? When I pulled him out, he was up to his chin, his head all wrapped in bog weeds. For some reason, he believed he was in hell, and his God put him here, and that this was an underground cave or a prison inside the earth. He wasn't making any sense. I tried to explain that we were in a great fish under the sea. I asked if he remembered the ship he was on before he came here, but he just kept rocking back and forth, praying to his God to let him go free. In a while, he calmed down enough to tell me he had something he needed to do back home, something his God told him to do. I remember it bothered me after," she says, arms crossed, nostrils flared, "'cause when I read the book he wrote, he didn't even mention me. He says his God let him out." "You've got some funny clothes," she says, tugging at my t-shirt. "Never seen a pale one wear anything like that. People in the village used to tell me not to dress this way when I went there," she says, presenting herself like a game show hostess. "Say I'm a savage, but I tried the pale one's civilized clothes one time not so long ago, maybe couple 300 years or something, hard to tell. And I laughed and laughed. I couldn't stop laughing at the cloth prison they'd put themselves in, their corsets and high-lace boots and silly frills. I'd never survive at home in that. A bonbon all wrapped up for any lion or leopard. Make me run like a one-legged buffalo. I like the bog 'cause no one bothers me about being me. I know the bog and the watchers. The villages are stuck with the pile and their stories." I think of mentioning the more casual nature of contemporary fashion, but I stop myself as I recall the persistence of high heels and neckties. "I think I saw them out there, the watchers," I say, recalling the haunting eyes that encircled me as I sank into the bog. "They come from a long time ago, before the big flood that brought me here. Maybe from so long before they come from a long time ahead. I don't know. They're other, but not. They see in the fog like daytime and are always very curious but stay away, except from me sometimes. They've shown me many things about many things by talk, not speaking. They even showed me the way back into outside," she says. Outside. I imagine myself back home, praying my shitbox of a car gets me through the morning rush, sorting through mountains of case files, panning for rare and precious nuggets of progress among the downtrodden slag heaps society has left behind. I wonder if I even want to go back. She fills an earthen bowl and passes it with 2 hands, her forehead meeting its edge. "This will help get your strength back," she says. "What is it?" I ask, poking at the contents. Various unrecognizable bits of vegetation float around, and the meat is attached to a tiny carcass with clasping, clawed feet. Smells like chicken soup. "Bog lemming stew, good for strength," she says, but this time she makes a humping gesture and lets loose another whinnying chuckle. "Make you big and strong." I laugh and wince at the pain while I pick what I can off a scrawny set of ribs, trying not to look the toothy skull in the eye sockets. I notice the bog has some dead patches, and some of the peat is drying up. She puts down her bowl, all signs of humor drained from her face. "The watchers also worry about the bog," she says. "They say the outside affects the inside. Something out there in the world is killing the bog. They say it's people's fault and a bad sign for everybody if the bog dies away. I've been here such a long time. I don't know what's happening out there, and no one I talk to knows. They all say there are some problems, but people can fix it." So even the fish, swimming the seas unaffected for thousands of years, can't escape our influence. I sigh, put down my bowl, and try to formulate an explanation. She waits, rolling a lemming head around her mouth like a kid with a jawbreaker. Starting with the Industrial Revolution, I begin a circuitous description of the last 150 years of human progress. It's harder than I thought it would be, because one technological advance often creates a whole hydra of interconnecting breakthroughs and problems, and I find myself frequently going back and recontextualizing things. She listens intently, an active sort of listening that draws the information from me in an unceasing flow that my mouth has trouble keeping up with. At a certain point I begin repeating myself, getting lost in the vast architecture of our own doing, greed feeding greed on so many levels that the telling spirals hopelessly out of my capacity to express any one aspect, like flailing at a swarm of insects with a tennis racket. She's staring back at me, contemplating. Her expression shifts between confusion, anger, and exasperation. I feel my complicity and the complicity of the generations that came before me unfurled like a banner dedicated to avarice and arrogance. I just accepted it all as the way of the world, part of the decor. But I was off the mark. It's the way of people in the world. Somehow the absurdity of being in here brings the absurdity of the world out there into even sharper focus. As if reading my mind, she gives a high-pitched cackle and shakes her head at me. "All you pale ones, you really think you can figure everything out?" And she laughs some more. I can't help but join in because her response seems so out of place. "But look," she continues, "you're just like the Too Clever Monkey. How foolish! We learned that story when we were kids. My grandmother told it many times."